He's our test dummy today.
I know, I already apologize.
Hard job. All right. So here, go ahead and you're going to give the length of the leash here. And you're going to just loop that handle around your thumb to secure him to you. Okay, because we want to, for a couple of reasons. I don't want him to be so close to you that if there were to be a redirect, you're the closest thing.
Okay.
Because Enrique's got the suit, you don't.
Sure.
Which I know a lot of people go, oh, but my dog will never do that.
No, I've seen, yeah.
So here, Enrique's going to test his touch sensitivity as well as his spatial threshold here, which is when is he going to trigger if he does trigger, okay? When he does trigger, just have a hold in the leash.
Yep.
And then what's your number currently set at?
I put it up to 22. We were at 16 before this. Do you want me to go up even higher?
No, we'll see what 22 does.
Okay.
I'm just using the Roomba as a frame of reference.
Yeah.
So you said you went to like a 40, 45, was it?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah. So I just keep that in mind.
Sure.
Any questions before we get started?
Essentially, when he starts to do the behavior I don't want, I start to shock him.
Correct. Now, if he starts growling, we're going to let that slide.
Okay.
Because with the suit, it gives us a bit of gray area.
Okay.
Which is, he could growl and
Yeah.
not do anything.
Yeah.
Right? Or he could growl and lunge into it. And I want to know which decision is he going to make. Okay?
The bad one.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if he does actively aggress or attack or whatever, yes, we would remote him. And I'll tell you tap and all that stuff.
Okay.
It's okay. It's just a day in the office for us. Okay?
Yeah.
So go ahead and move in, Enrique. That's the aggressive dog.
No, he makes me look such an asshole.
Okay. Good. All right. Go ahead and jump. All right, jump again. Wave your arms. Good. Go ahead and step back. Good. What?
Nothing. I mean, I'd much rather that. Don't get me wrong, but.
Yeah. Okay. So, how do you think that was going to play out?
How did I think? I thought that as soon as your hand went for his head, which seems to be his space, I thought that's what was going to trigger him, at least to start growling. So I'm happy that it didn't. But.
I didn't think he was going to do anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
What about you, Enrique?
Do I think he's going to do anything?
Yeah.
I mean, compared to what the other dogs do when they first see me, like on site, like he was just very like, whatever. And then when I was approaching, he just like stood to the ground, just like, whatever. Then there's a little tail wag, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is when we first came out, he was relaxed and his tail was wagging.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, which is not a bad thing. Okay.
Yeah.
But this is why that discipline structure is so important.
Yeah.
To see what does it fix.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally.
Now, is he fixed? No,
No.
because now I'm just like, I know it's there. I just
Yeah.
got to figure out how it's going to trigger.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do here is we're just going to poke and prod to see if we get any, maybe he's fine with everything, but maybe he doesn't like the butt being touched or something like
Yeah,
that.
the threshold. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to just press a little bit more.
Sure.
When you come into a space this time, Enrique, use your baby voice. Go ahead.
like excited, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I adjust my speed or just the voice?
Just come in. Yep. Just come in. Boy. Good. How far are you up the city are you?
How what?
How far up the city are you?
25 minutes. Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead and come around to the other side, Enrique. Go in between with the leashes. Yeah, so careful with your foot.
Sorry.
There you go. And then I'm gonna have you just poke and prod as you're touching all over the place, going for the rear and everything. Just watch that face. Yeah,
I'm using my foot.
that's fine. Right. Good. Right.
Can I just say that usually once he's used to someone, he won't. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. I know. Yeah.
So like, this situation with Enrique is very similar to how it was with my brother Danny,
Sure.
where he just decided like, yo man, you're cool, you know?
Sure. Go ahead and hand Enrique the leash here, please.
Okay.
Good. As best you can, Enrique, try to get in there, like underneath and all that stuff, hind legs, all that. Just be mindful of the face area for yourself.
Alright.
Yeah, so just. I just have pay Enrique to pet dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I don't really want to say this, but should I tell him to come off or what?
So you should tell him what?
Do you want me to tap him when he does that stuff?
Oh, the jumping and stuff?
Yeah.
You can tap the jumping again.
Okay.
Good.
He usually hates face stuff, but now he's going for it. He hates face stuff with strangers, but he seems to very much like you. So the minute he gets on his back and shows you his belly, then it's all over. You're friends for life.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah. So the only time I saw any tension was in Enrique when Enrique used his boot to touch his hindquarters.
Yeah.
But now he's fine with it.
Yeah, he's totally chill.
Yeah. So, good. So the reason why I was asking you how far out of the city are you is trying this within the home
Yeah.
is going to be a different
100%.
different thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you're all good, Enrique. You can move so you can
Thank
clear Bree out. Tell her that she's a liar
Yeah.
and that the dog didn't do anything.
This is the nicest dog in the world.
All right.
Thank you, Enrique.
Of course, have a good one.
Thank you, too.
All right, so we got to talk about how we're going to address this.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to muzzle back up again.
Okay, cool. Come on, T. Come here. Sit. T, sit.
Because I'm going to show you
Not yet. I said sit.
how to socialize him using the muzzling tools that you have.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. So any questions on any of that stuff?
No, actually, that made me happy. That's the first new person who's met that hasn't gone horrible with. Yeah.
Yeah. So listening for that.
Yeah, the pant.
Yeah.
It's getting quiet.
It's okay.
I know. I'm just.
So that quietness, I listen for how long is it?
Yeah.
Because if it's, you
Yeah.
know, it's just like a brief moment.
Yeah.
And then he let it go. And it's more so if it's quiet and stays quiet.
Yeah.
Is when you start to show a little concern.
Mhm.
But it can also, it doesn't always mean like aggressive
Mhm.
tension. It can just mean like the dog or the brain is thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, outside of his territory,
Yeah.
you know, is going to be different than within the
In
home, so that's going to be a
territory, yeah.
separate thing.
Yeah.
But the exercise kind of remains the same.
Yeah.
Okay? What's up?
Your teeth. His muscles on, of course, right there. Okay.
So you can relax, go ahead and have a seat.
Sure.
So, what we're going to do
Down.
is,
No, sweetheart, leave it.
let me think here. When it comes to socializing,
Yeah.
there's two fronts to it.
Mhm.
There's someone moving into his space, and then
Yeah.
there's him moving into somebody else's space.
Yeah.
Right? And it's, you have to take the dog over both.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times coming in straightforward, which is why I had Enrique
Just come right.
come
Yeah.
in right there, is that's the most challenging for the dogs because it's very confrontational.
Mhm.
When someone, like last time when I was here and you were sitting down,
Mhm.
I think I said you moved my feet or
Yeah.
kind of shifted and moved kind of inwards, and then
Yeah.
that's when he growled or whatever,
Mhm.
and that's what I would expect.
Yeah.
Okay. So what can happen in moments like that when there's not a firm level of discipline
Yes.
is the dog technically takes control.
Uh-huh.
He's the one deciding this person is getting too close or this person is too loud or I like the way this person is moving, and that's where he's coming from.
Uh-huh.
So technically not a bad thing,
Uh-huh.
right? But it's a bad thing if you can't control it. And also like, because you're aware, like I'm here, Irene's this appointment with Maria, meeting with Jesse,
Yep.
that there's no threat,
Exactly.
but he doesn't.
Yeah.
So that's why those first 2 classes are so important, especially that last class when he was bucking around. Have you had any issues with the muzzle anymore?
One other time, I actually figured out that if I don't attach the muzzle to his neck collar, he won't fuss at it so much. I think it might get caught when he shakes his head a little bit. But one other day we had a problem with it, but I tapped him out of it at a pretty low level. I mean, I think I was at like 25. He left it alone. We kept walking forward. So.
Yep. I mean, that's what I would expect.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of that kind of just shifts his mentality a bit once you start to put a little discipline on him.
Yeah.
Because if it's like legitimate like human aggression, like it's a fairly big problem.
Yeah.
You know, not to say that yours wasn't or isn't or whatever.
No, I think the hard part about mine is that it's unpredictable and it was getting worse.
Sure.
It was getting bad.
So here, when we have him in a more passive state simply because of good discipline, his choices get altered.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now we have to see, now in order to get him over that hump or yourself over that hump, because he could be already over it.
Yeah,
but it's
true.
Just
but
for you, it's just the trust factor, right? Is what you need to see is a lot of successes.
Yes.
And that's where exposure comes into play
Yep.
now. Okay. So having that muzzle will now allow you to essentially do what Enrique did, but without them needing a big old suit.
Okay.
So the reason why I had them do that was I wanted to see, is there any intent? If there's any intent, how bad is it, right?
Yeah.
So like I get dogs that seem really tough, and when we go to make contact with them, they panic bite, which is very like
loose.
I could barely even feel that, right?
Yeah.
So I go, the dog is a high fear but low aggression.
Yeah.
You know, and then so we have to evaluate the level of aggression, because if he would have bitten, it would have been like a really good bite because I felt that.
Yeah.
Then I go, okay, we definitely got to correct that. Do this a few times so that. Because you have to think, even if he's got the muzzle, if he's coming with intensity, like being punched by a muzzle hurts.
Yeah.
Okay, I have been punched by a muzzle. So then I got to think about the person you're practicing with, right?
Yes.
So here, I feel comfortable enough saying that you can start socializing them with the muzzle on.
Sure.
There's a couple ways of going about this.
Okay.
One is communicating to the person, if they're not aware, hey, I'm working with a trainer, we're working with Taco and these issues to try to socialize them, to see how he's doing or whatever.
Yeah.
And we've tested it, and he did nothing. He went right up to the.
Yeah.
I don't think he's met Enrique, right?
Never.
No. Yeah. So the first time came into
whatever,
right? So, but we're gonna take steps.
Yep.
So that they know, like, okay, cool. There's precautions. I'm not worried about being bit or anything like that, because that's always the main thing. Because I'll tell you right now, if you try to socialize them without that muzzle, you're gonna get almost probably 100% no's.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've had it happen. I've had dogs that never even bit anybody, because they're just kind of timid.
Yeah.
And we'll ask them like, hey, could you like pet this dog? And they'll be like, why?
Yeah.
You know, it's like if people will pet your dog with no permission.
Yeah.
But the moment you ask them to pet your dog,
they're like nervous.
They're like, why?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're trying to socialize. Nah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the muzzle just helps people feel safe. So one aspect would be if you feel uncomfortable in the beginning with people moving directly into him, is you have him move into people. So there's me going to him, and then there's him coming to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So if I have a dog that has issues with coming towards a person, they're forever stuck in a I don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
So then we have to use remote to make them move to the person, because they have to make the decision of, okay, I'm going to move to you, okay, because that doesn't allow any resistance to stay in the brain.
Yeah.
And then the brain will open up to, okay, well, you're not that bad, who are you? And then gradually that can open up into like where the dog accepts that person within like their trust circle. Okay. Now, do you have anybody who can help you with this stuff?
I mean, I have like a couple of people, I guess, but like he's maybe met them a couple of times. He air snapped at my aunt. That's the person. But she loves rescues. So, and she came when that happened. That was a long time ago, but she came into his space. So he was on his like lifted bed or one of those raised little beds. And I told everyone in my family like not to, like I was just like just leave him alone. Yeah, like leave him alone. And she did like everything that I asked her not to do. She like leaned over him, tried to, like scratch, and then he got that still quiet and like, and I didn't even have, because he was in a different room. He wasn't, he was staying there. He's obedient enough to stay. So I could ask her to do that, and my uncle would do it too. I have like family around that would be happy to help with that stuff, but
Sure.
he's like, maybe has like 1 or 2 experiences with them. With her, she's got a negative experience. He's only met my uncle like once.
Okay, and was the uncle any kind of experience? Like,
No, but I didn't let them, honestly, I was avoiding a lot of that stuff, so it was kind of like a glimpse, like, you know, we walked with them or whatever for like a second and then walked away. But that was like 6 months ago.
Gotcha. Okay, so that would be good to visit.
Yeah.
Now, if you're gonna socialize them, which I remember right now, is I would do that outside.
Yeah.
We actually have another. We need another part where when people coming into the home is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because if they knock and he triggers into territorial behavior,
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna send you. Did I send you the door video?
No.
Okay, so I need to send you that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna send you this video. So when someone knocks at the door, like aunt, uncle,
Yeah.
whatever, relative, friend, Amazon, he does it.
Yes.
Okay, so his natural instinct is I'm going to territorial mode, which is completely normal and healthy. But what happens is when you open the door and he's being territorial, is he can stay stuck.
Yes.
And then he just stays suspicious and wants nothing to do with the person or maybe even the person coming into the home, right? So we need to shut that down
Yeah.
and tell him like, hey, thanks for letting me know, but I'm in charge of the door now.
Yeah.
So he goes, my job is done.
Yeah.
If you let that person in, that's on you,
you.
you know? He doesn't really think like that, but that's the conversation.
Yeah.
And that he's relaxed.
Yeah.
So there's no suspicion left. Then the guest comes in, we see how does he respond, correct anything that we need to correct.
Yeah.
And then we move to now we go into socialization mode.
Yeah.
Okay, but we need that piece. So I'll send you that video. So I would plan for the next class to actually be over Zoom.
Okay.
Would it be possible for you to have someone come over at some point during the Zoom to practice?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Get someone.
So what we do is I send you the video, you would watch it, just to get an idea of what the exercise is, how it looks. And then, like let's say it was at 4 for your Zoom, I would plan for that person to come over 4:20-ish, 4:25-ish, to give us time to talk about your setup, how the home looks. I can help you transfer whatever you saw in the video to your environment.
Yeah.
Okay. We do the exercise, and then we see how he does, and then we can move into the touching if he seems to be doing fine. He'd be muzzled, of course, with the leash on, just as added precaution. And then it's really just practicing and seeing what happens. Okay. What's gonna take time with building the trust is now you need repetition. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a guest come over once a week, you'll get there. It's just
Yeah.
gonna take you some time.
Longer.
Yeah. If you have guests coming over multiple times a week, it'll happen. It's just gonna take some time. Okay. Questions about any of that stuff?
No. Do you ever, I said no and I have a question. Do you ever see like maybe you're right, like maybe he's like over a lot of the stuff just with the discipline that we've done, but would that ever just translate into the home thing, or is that territorial thing completely separate?
Completely separate.
Okay.
Okay. But what this tells me here is that he's open to it.
Yes.
Okay.
He's great with rules. Like if you give him rules, I think he was supposed to be on a farm, because if you give him a job or a task or whatever, that's when he's like on it and does great. And I think that routine used to be his friend, because when we were living in Vermont, he had the same 2 dog walkers, and they had their dogs that they walked, and he would walk with those dogs and it would be fine. And then this last year has just been a cluster without all the changes, and I think that let him go into his old tendencies, you know?
Sure. So, routine, comfort. I mean, it's like with people, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you have the same job and all of a sudden you're thrown into a new role, like there's gonna be anxieties
Yeah.
of like, well, what's my role with this? What's the routine? Like, what am I supposed to do? What's my day look like, right? So it's kind of the same thing for the dogs. And then like, let's say, same company, same dogs that he walked with, but then they changed the handler. That's gonna cause something.
Yeah.
I had a dog that I picked up recently for daycare, and the first time, because they wanted to be present when we first picked them up, I couldn't do it, but my employees did it. The next time, I had to do it, and I walked in going, this dog is not gonna let me touch him.
Yeah.
I already did.
Yeah.
Okay, Sure enough, he wasn't letting me touch him. He actually bit me.
Really?
Yeah, well, because when I was trying to, because they had the e-collar on him,
Yeah.
and it was like right there. So I tried to push the door open to get it, and right when it went like this, he jumped up, so I had to kick him back.
Oh,
And then that's when he got my foot.
Yeah.
And then I remoted him, he's fine, and now that we've been picking up, he comes regularly.
Yeah.
You know, but I already knew that going in.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last time there was one person,
Yeah.
and I walk in with a mask, you can't see, and I've seen this dog several times.
Totally.
You know, but he's never seen me in his home setting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So like, for humans with that territorial stuff, I tell them, it's like, if you woke up, you know, we have our friends, and there's somebody, like, you're just like, what the hell are you doing in my home?
Yeah.
At 5 in the morning, right?
Exactly.
That's dog.
Yeah.
A dog is any time of day.
Yeah.
If it's out of the norm, it's just, it's like, not every dog is that trusted.
Yes.
So that's, you know, it could be his personality type or whatever, but it's learning who he is,
Yeah.
and then going, okay, how do we work with it, or how do we prevent it or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay? So the reason why the territorial stuff, the reason that's so different is because there's a trigger. Because I think you said you need people outside and then you
Always.
bring them inside.
Yeah.
So you're avoiding the problem.
Completely.
Okay, which is not wrong.
Yeah.
It's an approach.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when I come in, they're like, yeah, we've learned if we just meet them outside and go for a walk and then come inside,
Yeah.
we avoid a lot of the issues. And I go, yeah, that's fine. But ultimately, what happens when you can't
Yes.
do that routine, and then it's like, well, now you're stuck.
Exactly.
Okay? So the way we do it is we do the knock. We have the door open. We have the trigger. We shut it down. And then we go, now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Okay? But when you shut down the suspicion, it allows curiosity to come out. And then he's like, oh. So like people, I've had this happen so many times where people have guests come over, and it can be the same person who's been over 100 times, and the dog never likes them. Okay? And then they do the door exercise, and after a couple of visits, the dog loves them. And the owner's like, why was that so quick? I'm like, because the dog has already met the person 100 times.
Yeah.
But the brain was so stuck on suspicion that it never became curiosity.
Yeah.
Once you shut that down and curiosity came out, then the dog's like, oh, I've seen you 100 times.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're best buds, because
Yeah.
there's already a lot of familiarity. But if it's someone the dog had never met before, I would tell and expect that person to take longer,
Yeah.
because there's not as much familiarity. Okay? So same thing with this guy.
Yeah.
You know, if there's someone that he's met several times and
Yeah.
never got warmed up to them, it's because he's stuck in like, you're in my house.
Yes.
But when you do the exercise, you're saying, this is my house,
Yeah.
and I'm letting this person come in, and you need to chill out. And then we progress towards socializing him, okay? And eventually, what you'll start to see, ideally, is as he starts to see the same faces come over, when you open the door,
Yeah.
it's gonna be like this, okay? It's gonna be just like that, and then you can start to recognize you're over the hump
Yeah.
with those people. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're completely over the hump. Because the other thing is, he may be completely fine until they do something he doesn't like.
Exactly, and so then and I know I sound like a PTSD survivor with all this stuff, but like him wagging his tail like that doesn't always mean good things for
Right,
me.
no,
Like
funny
it
though.
literally just, like, for me, and people be like, oh, he wants to play, and he's like crying, and like he's shaking his tail, and like every other dog in the world might look like he wants to play, or he wants to see whoever, but I could let him get close, and then he'll go ape shit, like he'll go crazy.
Sure.
So,
So the other thing you have to think about is, what is the other person's energy?
yeah,
Because what can happen is, let's say he's super excited, and then people look at it, they go, oh my, same
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
And then they add in
More,
their
yeah.
energy, and that's what things shift.
Yeah.
Okay? So like, let's say I saw that with him, and I know that of him.
yeah,
I would approach, you know, like you saw how he crouched down,
Mhm.
and I invited him into my space.
yeah,
That's much different than someone adding in more
More
intensity
yeah.
to an already intense dog.
yeah,
Then you get that's actually like a nervous blow-up response.
yeah,
So like I had a dog that I worked with who had snapped at the sister and had met the sister several times and loved the sister.
yeah,
So then they're like, why did this happen? Right? Because they're all freaked out. And I was like, well, tell me what was going on. They're like, well, she came over, he was wagging his tail, he was sitting on the ottoman, he was super excited to see her, and she was petting him like normal, and all of a sudden he snapped at her face. So my brain goes, he's sitting on an ottoman.
Yeah.
Ottoman's in front of the couch.
oh,
He snapped at her face. That means her face was nearby.
yeah,
And I was like, well, she's sitting on the couch when she was doing this. And they said, yeah. I'm like, well, she's sitting on the couch leaning in and baby
Yeah.
talking to him. And they said, yes. And they go, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
Because what happens is, he's excited.
yeah,
She comes in. She's in his personal space.
yeah,
She's petting him. And it's kind of like the initial, like when you get a new phone, right? Like it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And then after a day or so, it's
Really
just
done with it,
another
yeah.
phone, right?
same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dog's just like, oh, what's this, right?
Mhm.
But then all that starts to resolve, and then the dog is left with, why are you in my face?
Yeah.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and then it happened again with that same dog. They're like, we were outside where they'd never seen this behavior before with the dog. And same thing, he snapped at a friend's face. And I was like, were there's a lot of energy? Yeah. Was the friend bent over the dog? Yeah. And then they were like, oh, and there was like 4 other people there, like just all around him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, makes a lot of sense. But they thought, because it looked very fine in the beginning,
Yeah.
and I was like, until the brain realizes, like, wait a minute, this is kind of uncomfortable, and then it responds.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's stuff where you come in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the good thing about human type aggression is that it can be worked with, because you can tell the person what to do.
Yes.
Now there are certain things that I just avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like I personally do not come in and baby talk and do all that stuff
Yeah.
to dogs, right? And I recommend that people don't, unless it's their dog.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those moments where he's already at the threshold and he added more, you're gonna get a blow up,
Mm-hmm.
possibly. Okay, and so what I would do is I would tell people, like, yeah, you can greet him, but I'm gonna tell you how to greet him appropriately. Okay, and he's not the kind of dog that you just can come up and pick up and whatever, right? As a preventative measure.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So one thing is, if you have your shirt, is, let's say it's a guest that he's not met before,
Yeah.
right? Is what I like to do is I'll put a little bit of tension here and go
Yeah.
just tap for me. Okay, as you see how he immediately just comes into my space,
Yeah.
right? Is when we work with dogs, if there's any apprehension, like I mentioned earlier, that apprehension leads to, I want nothing to do with you, I'm gonna become aggressive to get you away from me, okay? But I don't think I've actually ever seen this work the other way, where I'll be pulling towards the dog, and they're like this.
Yeah.
And if I force them into my space, they'll become aggressive.
Yeah.
But if I do the pull and I remote them, and the dog does what he did,
Yeah.
and comes immediately into my space, they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
No. No idea.
You said yes. I was like, oh, maybe she just get it.
No.
Okay. So what fuels the aggression
Yeah.
is the fact that the dog didn't want to do it in the first place.
Uh-huh.
So because I'm stronger,
Yep. You pull.
I pull, I physically force them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're still, I want nothing to do with you
Yeah.
here, okay? But if I pull lightly and I tap, brain makes the decision.
To come that
To
way
move in.
to make this stop.
Exactly. So I didn't force the dog to.
Yeah.
The dog willingly
Mm-hmm.
did it, even though I'm manipulating through pressure.
Yeah.
The dog thinks, well, I put myself here.
That was my choice. Yeah.
Okay, so then we don't see, because there's no resistance, there's no agitation. The dog goes, okay, I put myself here. They may not like it.
Yes.
You'll see them, it's very awkward, right?
Yeah.
Taking the pets and stuff, and the owner's like, why did the dog trip out the other time but not that time? I'm like,
Yeah.
because the dog made the decision this time.
Yeah.
So what we do with that is, if we keep repeating that process with people the dog doesn't know, and the dog just starts to think, well, if I go into this mode, this happens, but whenever I move in, nothing happens. That they start to be the approacher, right? So when the person crouches down, like I did earlier, they're conditioned of, oh, I say hi. Okay, whereas most dogs would go, you're on my level, that's putting too much pressure on me. Okay, so this exercise is super simple. So once we get the door exercise done, right, your guest would come in, and if we pretend it's someone like that he's never met before,
Sure.
I would start with him moving into their space first. That's the easiest.
Okay.
And this here,
Uh-huh.
okay, does not look like much of anything,
Uh-huh.
but this is how I build trust.
Yeah.
So I had a dog when I first started my business here, who was so scared of people that from like 20 to 30 feet away, he would already scatter.
Yeah.
So he'd see you and he'd already be like this,
Yeah.
right? And he was super sensitive. So when I had him, initially I had him kind of like this, but I had him tethered. I had his leash wrapped around my belt and I had him tethered to me. And the first day, for like the first few hours, he was at the end of the leash like this.
Yeah.
Just as far as way I can get for you.
Yeah.
Okay? And eventually, that gets exhausting. Being stuck
In that position.
in this position and in this mental state of avoidance.
Yeah.
Eventually that he started to like relax, and then he fell asleep, And then eventually he just kind of worked his way
Shift
over the case. So like just all day he was just tethered to me. And I didn't do anything with him.
Yeah.
Okay, we were just coexisting. So then he's like, all right, well, I can't get away from you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, but I didn't put any kind of pressure on him.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know I did this exercise with him too as we went along and stuff.
Yeah.
But initially, I just had him tethered to me. I was like, all right, buddy, you're gonna get over me one way or another.
Yeah.
Because the brain, it's like being angry. You can only be angry for so long
Yeah.
before you start to kind of let it go.
Yeah.
And maybe something happens that it like reminds you, or someone says something, or maybe the person that pissed you off, like you see them, and it triggers again, right? But then after that's gone, it starts to go away. You cannot stay angry forever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for this stuff, right? So like, let's say he was being super awkward with me right now.
Yeah.
30 minutes in, he's gonna go, man, it's really tiring being awkward like this.
Yeah.
That he just starts to relax.
Yeah.
So then the brain starts to process, oh, I can be next to this person and be relaxed.
Yeah.
Okay? So then the last thing he remembers when you remove him is, I was with Jesse in a relaxed state, not a tense state.
Yeah.
And then we start to stack on that. So then maybe the next time, instead of taking 30 minutes, it takes 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and then 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and then a minute, and 30 seconds. And then
Yeah.
eventually he sees me,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just like, whatever, like, not whatever, but
Yeah.
just like, let him
Hands up,
be
yeah.
him, but not be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So if it's someone who's never met before, just the act of coexisting like
Yeah.
this, without any pressure on him, helps him open up a bit more.
Yeah.
Okay? For people, they think petting is
Greeting.
this great
Yeah.
like, right? But only if the dog
Invites it.
accepts it or
Yeah.
invites it, Just like
Yeah.
with a person, right? Like if a random just started touching me, I would be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want that, so I'm not comfortable with it. Same thing for the dog.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you start to see, like in the beginning, he's just like indifferent, which is normal, and then you repeat the process, what you may start to see is he'll turn like this and like start to nudge with their hand,
Yeah.
saying like, hey, would you pet me?
Yeah.
Okay? Now, then we can potentially create a problem. Okay? It's not, this is very rare, but it can happen, is if I have a dog that's antisocial, and we're trying to flip them to make them social,
Yeah.
and they end up going from I want nothing to do with you to like,
everything.
hey, right? Is once they start telling the person pet me,
Yeah.
what happens is they're telling the person what to do,
Yeah.
and the person is complying. Is that they potentially become a bully.
Yes.
Okay, so then it's like pet me, and after the person's petting them, they start growling.
Yes.
And they're like, okay, now you stop petting me. Okay, so if that happens, we correct him,
Yeah.
and then I start to watch how often I actually reinforce him asking for affection,
Got it.
so that he doesn't become a bully. Okay, so in the beginning, there's 3 things that build trust with dogs. I guess there's 4, but 3 major things. One is walking or traveling, resting, and playing.
Okay.
The other could be feeding. Okay.
Yeah.
So here, if he's not comfortable enough, I'm not going to play with the person.
Yeah.
Okay. Walking, well, technically you can do like for your dog walker and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? But most people probably are not going to want to walk with him to like become friends.
Yeah.
Right. The easiest and simplest thing is just simply resting.
Yeah.
So if you have a guest come over and you do this exercise, and you could just be watching a movie on Netflix or something,
Yeah.
right, or a show, and he's just laying or sitting next to him like this, is during that time, his brain's going like, oh, I can be next to this person I don't know. Nothing bad's happening. They're not hurting me.
Yeah.
They're not constantly in my business,
Yeah.
right? Like constantly, oh my God, like you're such a pretty dog, all this
Yeah.
stuff, right? Because then it can also go the other way,
Yeah.
right? Where I give, on occasion,
A pet.
a touch or whatever, and then I leave him alone.
Yeah.
Okay? So he goes, okay, cool, like, you're not too bad.
Yeah.
And this muscle's too loose, by the way.
It's what?
It's too loose,
Too loose, sorry.
right here.
Okay.
So this here, you should barely be able to even get
Oh,
a
my
finger.
finger, okay.
Trying to kill me? So, yeah, or even like just me like having him like this.
Yeah.
Right? Where I'm not constantly just rub.
Yeah.
This actually helps build trust with dogs.
Yeah.
We had, when my daycare first opened up, we had a great dame that came in who was very nervous with people.
Yeah.
And she didn't do well at daycare, and she did great here.
Yeah.
But one of the first things we did was, like that other dog, I tethered her to me. Just had her with me, and she would just lay down on my feet.
Yeah.
By the end of the day, she was sniffing me and licking me, because I just let her herself kind of just resolve that.
Yeah.
And just open up and like, oh, okay, like you're not costing me my business like every other person.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at that point, then I just kind of, how do you say, like determine how much to put on the dog.
Yeah.
But less is almost always better.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless the dog is actively seeking like more and more.
Yeah.
Then unless they're becoming a bully, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions on this so far?
No, you know, I guess I'll see the video too for the doorbell stuff, but like, I've been sending him to his place every time someone came over for anything, and he just stays, and so the way the house is laid out is that you walk in through the front door and it's like a dining room area, it's a split level house, and so then you, on your right, that goes down into a split level, and his place is on this raised bed that's all the way in the corner, so you can kind of see the door a little bit from there, but you can't really do very much else besides see the door.
Mhm.
So have I been just building like a barrier of frustration for him every time?
No.
Okay.
Because mentally he's on place.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I had a client. This was some of the stuff I come across.
Yeah, I don't want to be the type of person that's making the problem worse.
No.
Yeah.
So I'll explain how this works.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything is driven by the brain.
Yeah.
So I had a client. She has a Tibetan Terrier.
Yeah.
And one trainer told her, well, she did a boot camp that did nothing for the nervous behavior. The
Yeah.
dog was barking at the door and would keep barking.
Yeah.
So then she had another trainer who said, put up a gate
Uh-huh.
and then have guests throw treats from behind the gate.
Yeah.
And then the veterinarian said, put the dog on drugs.
Yeah.
Okay? And then I show up.
I've
and
been
then,
through this whole gamut. Yeah.
Then I show up, and within a minute, I go, your dog is nervous.
Yeah.
Okay, and I go, we're gonna start with structure, like this guy, we're gonna start
Yeah.
with discipline, we're gonna see what it fixes,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna work on the other things as we go along. And by the second or third class, the dog had already like went at you.
Yeah.
And she was like, you know, and I told her the gate thing was the worst thing you could do
Yeah.
because it creates a physical barrier. And I was like, if anything, it's gonna intensify the behavior. And she said, that's exactly what I thought and felt.
Yeah.
But the trainer was like, no, this is how it works and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I'm like, no, it creates that degree of separation.
Uh-huh.
So this is an extreme, but this is like a human analogy. Is like, let's say we have a parent and something's happening to their child and they can't get to them.
Yeah.
Right? Can you feel that?
Yeah, that's terrible.
It's like, that's kind of the same thing for the dog. Is with that barrier.
Yeah.
They're thinking, because they're not logical like we are, they're going threat,
Yeah.
threat. Mom, pack members over there,
Mhm.
right? And I can't help.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the stress levels go up.
Mm-hmm.
So then, when we removed that barrier and we did this exact exercise that I was telling you about, she was fine.
Yeah.
Because we were actively communicating, thank you for letting me know someone is here.
Yeah.
You need to chill out.
Yeah.
This is my house. I'm gonna take care of it.
Yeah.
Everything else was fine after that.
Yeah.
So the dog actually wasn't even aggressive. And they gave it some fancy, schmancy science term.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your dog's nervous.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all it is. Your dog's nervous and being territorial, it's normal.
Yeah.
But when you got two things like that intertwined,
Yeah.
it looks like as if it's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
Okay? So here, what you were doing, because you've had obedience and
Yeah.
you have done e-collar,
Yeah.
is when you sent Taco to place, he was mentally there.
Yes.
Okay? So that's why there was no degree of separation
Mm-hmm.
or barrier of separation. But it's still fueling antisocial behavior.
Yes.
Because you're keeping them out of the social circle.
100%.
Okay, so like this is a social circle right now, right?
Yes.
It's you, me, Taco.
Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody came in,
Uh-huh.
they're their own bubble, but then once they enter in, they become a part of our social circle, right?
Yes.
So if that happened and he started growling or something,
Yeah.
I would understand it.
Yes.
So it's like women at the bar at a table,
Yes.
and this guy starts to walk over.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I know what you're
Yeah,
talking
I
about.
know.
Yes, that's, you have your social circle,
Yeah.
and then you have someone that's
Coming
going
in,
to
sure.
try to come in, and then everybody feels a way about it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mhm.
So, except for him, he's very black and white,
Yes.
he's primal, and he's like, you know what,
Not you.
yeah, I'm not gonna let you, and I'm gonna growl, or I'm gonna put out threat to back you off, okay?
Yeah.
So, in order to get him to become comfortable with that stuff, we have to include into the social circle.
Yeah.
So I look at it as two fronts. We
Yeah.
have preventative and we have interventative.
Uh-huh.
Okay, preventative is place.
Yes.
I know if I send Taco here, and if I tell my guest, ignore Taco,
He'll.
no conflict,
Yep.
we're good. But he never gets to
To
open
open
up
up,
to
yeah.
them, you know? Interventative would be, okay, I'm gonna do the exercise of backing up Taco. He's still within the space of where people are going to hang out, but I'm not going to remove him, and I'm going to allow him to coexist within the space. Okay. So like, let's say you do all this stuff, the guest comes in, Taco's laying on the rug, it's you and your guest, and they get up and they walk around, they walk past and they sit down, and he's just sleeping, and maybe he comes up over there and starts beating on, right? That's the making him social. But then, let's say he starts to grumble, that's the intervention.
Yeah.
It's, you're living life as life would be, but you're allowing him, that's why muzzle's in place, to do or act as he feels, to give you the opportunity to correct. So when we come in with the suit, we do that so we go, hey, let the dog attack.
Yeah, let's see.
So we can stop it if it's an issue and teach the dog how to coexist. Like we have another dog right now that I didn't think was going to be this bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Really?
All right, but we're making great progress. But man, Enrique goes in and he can't even like move because the dog's like launching and going after him and she like attacks and shakes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I'm getting her used to people walking around, people running, people jumping, people approaching her on the couch. All these things that I know are going to be a problem for her.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to build to this guy can have guests come over and not worry about is his dog going to attack.
Yeah.
But once we get to the stage of it's simple, he's going to do the same thing. He's going to muzzle his dog up. He's going to do the door exercise.
Yeah.
And have his guests come in. And he's going to just be mindful of that remote and his dog whenever people are moving around.
Yeah.
Okay? Remember, you're just laying there. Right? So, questions on any of that?
No, I don't think so.
I wouldn't worry too much about people moving directly towards Taco right now.
Okay.
Okay, make it easy on yourself, make it easy on your guests.
Okay.
Because the other thing is, if you want a reward of that like degree, right, which is like, yes, I would love Taco to just be able to socialize or like just have people come over and not worry about is he going to do something, right? Is you have to put yourself in that situation,
Definitely.
which means risk.
Yep.
But then that muzzle comes into play.
Yeah.
Okay, is if you get a negative response, don't feel bad about it.
Yep.
It's part of the process. Okay, you have to. If anything, I want to see that stuff because it means cool. I've addressed it.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas when I get cases that move too smoothly, it's I'm like, well, one, you don't learn as much.
Yeah.
Because then what happens after training, if you've never seen it, then you never got a chance to correct it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
100%. And I think that to a certain degree, like that's the hard thing about him because it does, like, he would be perfect 95% of the time, and 5% of the time it was the worst, and I couldn't quite figure out exactly what it was about that time. You know, was it the stranger? Was it the hand pat on the head? Like, what part of it did I miss? You know what I mean? I think that's the hard part. He was just getting worse, which is why I came to you, because I couldn't keep doing it, because he kept growling at more things, so I was worried it was going to spin out more. But like, for example, he may act like the perfect dog now for like the next like 2 weeks or something.
Sure.
And something might set it off, and I don't know what it is the problem.
Okay. So what I do is, if that happened, like, so for instance with that dog, the nervous one that snapped at the sister and snapped at the friends, is they just told me a few pieces. And then I was like, I was able
to
put it together, and I'm like looking at like, the ottoman in the chair and assuming like she was probably sitting and being at his level, right? Plus he snapped at her face, that means her face was nearby. So there's that, or there's, I look at what happened prior. So if you would tell me like, and let's say in 3 weeks, you're like, hey Jesse, I had a guest come over and Taco snapped at them or went crazy, the worst I've seen it or whatever. I would say, tell me the situation. And you would say, they knocked and Taco was good, he stayed behind the threshold and I let my guest come in and everything was fine, but when my guest walked over by Taco, then he went after him. I already know what the problem is. And I would ask, like, did you tap him back past the threshold? And then maybe you go, no, like he was good because he was already there. I'm like, that's why it happened. Because the tap, because this is super common, where people, the dog will learn the pattern, and they'll stay past the line, and they won't go past it. And the owner goes like, oh great, they're not charging the door anymore. And I said, yeah, but the brain still triggers. It just is not really showing it. So I always will give a tap before I open that door to make sure that I'm shutting down any little residual tension, any idea, before letting that guest come in, because that's super common. Okay, so And if that happens, whether it be in 3 weeks, 3 months, a year, you just ask me. Life isn't perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, and if let's say you go a year before you see something, I mean, for me that's pretty damn good.
Totally.
Right, and I would ask again, what happened? You would explain it to me, and I would say, this sounds either valid. This is why it happened. This is how we prevent it from happening. This is how we stop it when it's happening.
Yeah.
You know, because I had another client. I don't know if I told you their dog bit someone coming into their home.
Yeah.
When they were gone, 4th of July, right? And I'm like, and they were all panicked because they're like, we have a baby now and all that stuff. And I'm like, nope, all that makes sense. Like, your dog's not human aggressive. Your dog just defended the home.
Yeah.
And unfortunately happened to be a friend.
Exactly.
Okay? Because people don't see the world the way dogs do, and it's very important to understand that, because sometimes it isn't the dog, it's just the whole context of things.
Yeah, and I wonder if I'm a little too careful in the sense that I don't even let him get into a bad situation or a questionable situation anymore. Like even yesterday I was at my parents' house with him, and he was outside playing for a long time, but then I ended up being inside helping my little brother with something for a while. My mom, we were all in the living room, and he was outside. He had been playing by himself and then had taken a nap, but it started to get cold, so I brought him into the house, which he had been in the house before, their house. And my stepdad was sitting on one couch, my mom's on another with her 2 pugs, who he's seen a million times. He was in his muzzle, and my mom really wants all the dogs to get along, so she got him his place, like a lift, like a raised bed there too. So I said place, and he's like just laying there with his muzzle on, like staring out the window and stuff like that, and there was no problem like whatsoever. But then, you know, people started moving around, getting up, and he got a little bit more alert, so I just took off because I was like, I don't want, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was such a nice day, Jesse. I didn't want to put in this stressful, like, situation, and we haven't talked about other dogs being around yet, so I was like, okay.
Oh, sure, sure, okay.
So I didn't want to do something bad and then, like, give him, like, a traumatic experience with, like, the muzzle and the dogs, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But nothing bad had happened, and so I was like, I don't want to ruin this.
Sure. So, I used to see, like, peeling out with your
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so it's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, so what I would do is when you have the opportunities, you take advantage of it.
Yes.
Okay?
Because I could go over there every freaking day and they would love it. I don't know how to take advantage of that opportunity. I don't know how to use that yet.
Gotcha. So, explain to me the I'll give you
Come here.
so it's your parents' place,
All the way down.
and they have a pug?
They have 2 pugs.
They have 2 pugs.
Wilma and Nellie. They're super barky, and they're tiny.
Has he met these? Okay, so he's familiar with them, but he's never formally met them.
He has, there's a couple things. So I've been here for a year. He's met them a couple times. He's had a run-in with each one of them. Always a resource guarding type issue. Like, my mom let the pugs out when he was out there with a bone, even though I asked her not to. And so, like, if he has a bone or something, I just want to take it away, because honestly, he'll avoid, if he doesn't want to play with another dog, he just seems to avoid and walk away. But after those 2 instances, like, I started wondering if he was associating them with something bad, so now I don't really let them intermingle very much. He's done that to both of them. He, like, literally has, like, not bitten them at all, but, like, air snapped at them and scared the bejesus out of them, and then they go running around like crazy. And then one time, though, we walk with them all the time, so he's used to walking with them in a pack, and they never get into any problems whatsoever.
Good.
But one time, he actually started trying to play with Nellie, the other pug, and they were like running around, and it was kind of cute. It's never happened since then, so I just kind of let it be. But yeah, so they're usually all kept separate is the thing. So usually the pugs are inside, and especially when it's cold, they don't want to be outside anyway. And he's like running around playing in their fenced-in backyard. So and then my brothers like to go out there and like throw a ball at him and stuff like that with him, and you know, he plays.
Okay.
But they're predominantly kept separate.
Okay, so the resource bone thing, Gordon, is, yes, it's wise to say no bones.
Yeah.
Right? And I think if you can get, and I would plan for anything of value would be a potential guardian.
Exactly.
Right?
There's no.
That's
no
just being wise. Exactly. That's just being wise. Put all that stuff away. And I would just, you know, because you did place, right? So
Yep.
like you're keeping them in a bubble, you're not allowing them to socialize
Mhm.
and like kind of open up. Is I would just take them with the muzzle and your leash and let it just drag and have the remote on them.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I do is I let them just be themselves.
Uh-huh.
But like let's say he's like laying down in his own space,
Yeah.
and then like Nellie, is it?
Nellie, yeah. Nellie's the more adventurous one.
Okay. Let's say Nellie's like just walking past him.
Yeah.
I will just observe
Mhm.
because I'm thinking, okay, Taco's laying down, he's got his spot,
Yeah.
he's resting. Maybe he's not gonna like Nellie moving near his space because that's technically resource guarding, right? He's guarding this
His
place
space,
that he
yeah.
has. And I'm watching. I have my hand on the remote, you know, maybe I'm at 45,
Yeah.
and then let's say you start to see him stare at Nellie and kind of like gradually get up.
Yeah.
Then I'm going, yeah, he's probably gonna left. Boom.
Yeah.
I correct him. And he walks away from Nellie and like lays down somewhere else and she
Yeah.
just goes on with her business, right?
Yeah.
Is he just learned, okay, if she starts to approach my space and I think about doing something, I'm gonna get it remoted, right?
Yeah.
But, so I'm observing when I think I'm gonna see a potential scenario,
Yeah.
but you have to technically let it play out.
Yeah.
Ideally catching it prior to any explosion in
Uh-huh.
order to get them to learn how to just coexist.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a balance of it's awareness, not paranoia.
Yeah.
Okay, whereas you're probably more on the paranoid
I'm
side
super paranoid. No,
because of what happened,
there's
right?
nothing calling her. I'm absolutely paranoid.
Yeah, and that's different because
Yeah.
that's an unhealthy awareness,
Yes.
where it's just being aware.
Yeah.
You know, so like when I have dogs that are dog aggressive intermingling, and I'm just like watching and stuff, and I just observe and like, okay, cool, and I'm just ready.
Yeah.
As opposed to I think paranoia is more so like an energy that is gonna push it to happen,
Mhm.
whereas awareness is like, is it gonna happen?
Yeah.
You know, so like when people, their dogs are reactive,
Yes.
that's paranoia,
Uh-huh.
right? And this energy is gonna push it to
Translate.
happen, as opposed to shortening my leash, looking at my dog, that's keeping relaxed. So
Yeah.
I'm aware that something may happen, but my energy is not gonna push it to happen.
Yeah.
Okay? I would use that to your advantage.
Okay.
And the only way to get there is, I mean, there's gonna be negative experiences. I'm
Yeah.
not even gonna say maybe, I'm gonna say there is.
Yeah.
Because you go on going, all right, just say it might be a shit show, and then I just correct them, and I just keep moving on. So I'm not
Yeah.
creating any kind of, not sugarcoating any kind of,
Yeah.
possibility it's gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I go into things expecting, like, every time I work with the dog, I always think to myself, I'm gonna get bit.
Yeah.
Because it keeps me on my toes,
Mhm.
so that I'm expecting it to already happen, so that
Yeah.
if it does go into that stage, I'm already a step ahead.
Yeah.
Okay? Because most people go into it thinking it's not gonna happen,
Yeah.
and then they get bit for it.
Yeah.
When I get people that rescue a dog, and they go to add in chicken into their bowl,
And then they get bitten.
yeah, and they're like, I was just gonna put a chicken in, I think I was gonna get bit. I'm like, well, that's why I got bit.
Yeah.
You know, like I always assume
Mhm.
resource guarder
Yeah.
doesn't like to be touched.
Yeah.
All these things, and then as I spend time with the dog, and I have experience going, yep, not a resource guarder.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, doesn't mind being touched.
Yeah.
Doesn't mind having its nails clipped, right?
Yeah.
Is you have to go through experiences, and the more successes you have,
Mhm.
you're gonna start to relax. And I just always tell everybody, don't get complacent,
Mhm.
because when people get complacent is when things happen.
Yeah.
So like, let's say in 3 months of going over there to your parents' place on a regular basis,
Yeah.
you're like, wow, he plays and he's relaxed and there's been no moments of tension.
Mhm.
Take off the muzzle,
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah.
I've had clients who get to the point where they're so comfortable they just remove the muzzle
Uh-huh.
and they don't need it anymore.
Mhm.
I get some clients that like to have it on for like the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after like the initial just like energy is resolved,
Yeah.
then they'll remove it.
Yeah.
And I get some clients that go, you know what, I'd rather just like have the
Keep it
muzzle
on.
on
Yeah.
and just know that nothing could ever happen, period.
Well, I think that's why I was so comfortable with him coming into the house in that situation, because he had the muzzle attached to his collar too, so like wasn't budging anywhere is
Mhm.
the other thing. I see that. I see the advantage of definitely having this muzzle.
Yes, it's all about exposure.
Yeah.
Okay, because it allows you to go out your comfort zone and not worry about like, is something gonna happen? If something happens, you correct it, and I don't leave the situation.
Yeah.
If something happens, I correct them and I keep them in the space,
Mhm.
at least for another 30 minutes.
Okay.
If you're really anxious about it or something like that, at least stay 30 minutes. The last thing he remembers is, I did something, I was corrected, and I had to stay within the context for another half an hour.
Yeah.
Excuse me, so the last thing he remembers is, I had to coexist.
Uh-huh.
Anytime I get clients whose dogs fight or have gotten in a fight,
They run away.
they run away, so when they come back, the last thing the dog remembers is, we were fighting,
Yeah,
right back to ground zero.
yeah,
Okay, super, super common.
yeah,
Whereas for us, if something goes down, we stop it, we make the dog stop, and then we, if anything, we plant them right next to each other and go, hold that for the next 30 minutes.
yeah,
So the dog goes, all right, I guess I can't do that now.
yeah.
Okay, so for this week, I'm gonna send you the video.
Yep.
Watch it.
Yep.
Okay. Next class is most likely gonna be via Zoom if we
Okay.
get somebody to
Yep.
come over at that time. Start exposing.
And that person, you want to be someone that he doesn't know.
You can do either or,
Okay.
because it's really just a matter of practicing the exercise.
Yeah, let's start with my mom, who he kind of knows. Surprisingly enough,
Mhm.
she, like, I don't let her be alone with him because I don't trust them together.
Sure.
So I think that would be a good one.
That's fine.
Okay,
And like I actually did one earlier this morning, and
Yeah.
she used somebody that she knew.
yeah,
And I told her for the next couple of weeks, just practice with people you know
yeah,
to get yourself comfortable so
With
that
the
you can
process.
build to the point of now it's somebody you don't know.
Yep.
Because for him, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Okay? And it's either he's gonna be excited or he's gonna be territorial when he sees the person.
yeah,
And it's the same exercise either way.
okay.
So we'll do that. And then, if possible, you know, visit your family more.
Yeah, oh, we're there every day.
Okay.
So there's an opportunity to live
Sure,
every
just
day.
avoid, I guess, the avoidance.
Yes, exactly.
Okay? If it goes south,
Yep.
stop it, keep with it for 30 minutes.
Okay,
And if it's like, yeah, that's too much, then just hold back on that. And then we'll have to come and approach that a different way.
yeah,
Or figure out a way of how to make that happen. Okay?
yeah,
Anything else?
no,